Hello and welcome to the sixth episode of What an Insight. What an Insight, a videocast series in which I, Vishesh Monga, host experts from the industry to bring to the table their insights on some really interesting topics and very relevant for present day. In our panel for today, we have Mr. Mubin Khan, President of NettValue Media, and my professor from KJ Simsa. We have with him Rutu Mody-Kamdar, founder and MD of Jigsaw Brand Consultants, and Omkar Joshi, Executive Creative Director and Business Head from Schbang. I warmly welcome you all. And as you might have guessed already from their descriptions as well as their titles, that I'm going into the side of agencies. That is why the topic for the day is surviving a crisis, an ad agency's point of view. And to unravel the mysteries, I will start throwing up a lot of questions to specialists from different wings of the agency to find out what really is happening and how can we actually survive it. Companies, brands, and organizations all around the world, and as well, in fact, in India as well, have been struggling. And the reason is COVID, pandemic, lockdown, everything happening around us. And when a business does not do well, where does its advertising and marketing spends go? They're not there. That's the biggest problem. We have our experts who will help us solve this quest and understand more about what really is happening from the industry point of view rather than us sitting here and just making wild guesses. So when lockdown hit us, digital grew and grew really big, and traditional media fell almost flat on itself as there were no new channels, new programs going on there. The size of the newspaper itself reduced. That's primarily because the huge media spends declined and the companies could not spend a lot. How did that impact the entire advertising and media industry? We will know from Mr. Mubin Khan.
Hey, thanks, Vishesh. It's tough time for all of us. Traditional has fallen. Actually, all media has fallen. In fact, this morning I got some news that even digital has not really grown. Digital has also either stabilized or even fallen a little bit. But these are things to be expected. And all businesses are like a sine curve, right? You have troughs and you have points of growth, and advertising always is actually a bigger sine curve. So when everything grows, advertising grows faster. When everything drops, advertising drops faster. It's only a matter of hanging in there, staying along, walking this course. Things should improve, and hopefully if all of us behave right, and hopefully there's no second wave of the pandemic, media agencies have actually had to face the highest brunt because business is significantly down. And it's because of the fact that on the one hand, in a lot of non-essential categories, actually production is zero. And if there's no production, I mean, we've all read that there are no cars being manufactured. Stationery, which is educational stationery, which is the season is right now, or soft drinks or air conditioning, whatever, all of those summer or school opening or things like that, all of them are down. And when the production is down, of course, nobody is going to spend. So this is the time when you actually get back into your whatever you've done in the past. You go back into, let me use the word, dip into your savings. You need to obviously keep the morale of the people high, because people A, are not getting work, B, they're always worried about what will happen to their lives, right? So it's a matter of how do you find the right tone of voice, the right words to actually keep the morale of your team high. The other thing is also, if we do things right, there are many ways that you can actually use this to an opportunity and find the clients that could actually work at this point of time, and then work with them. So while on the one hand the whole industry is down, pharma is up, agri is up, and if you find those guys, if you find clients that are still in the mood to spend, I mean, we've seen this amazing thing that Amul did, for instance, right? So it's a matter of finding opportunity, and advertising people have this knack of finding that one opportunity in any loophole, in any scenario, right? And that's what one is doing right now.
Yeah, really, when the going get tough, the tough get going, certainly. and finding that ray of hope and clinging by it, just to survive this crisis. And that's what's really been the case with media around us. But since, as you mentioned, a lot of essential categories and Amul and everything are doing good stuff out there, and what it was normal has changed completely for us. People's behavior have changed and everything has changed. And even if we think about the creative side of things, it's very difficult to tap into the customer's mind right now because their thought process has changed completely. The older insights don't work anymore. And with everyone else, us like trapped at home. So to approach them from a creative point of view, how does one go about finding insights sitting from their homes, which was actually traditionally a field job? Actually, I want to know this from Rutu, because she has been working around this and in this field. But how does one actually go about doing that?
So yeah, we are all working from home, and of course, research is one of those fields where traditionally you would be out into the field, you would be actually at the consumer's house, and you'd be interviewing people in their living rooms, which is not happening anymore. So of course, as soon as the lockdown started, we did have a lot of work, in fact, that came in, because I think a lot of companies are using this time to also deep think. And to build strategy and to look at long-term. A lot of long-term thinking is happening around this time, which also does require research, right? So in fact, we very, very quickly adapted ourselves to the online methodology, and we started using techniques and technology which we otherwise wouldn't have used, and in fact it has worked very beautifully. So to answer your question, all the things that were happening offline, like for example, what focus groups. So instead of having people sit in a room, 5 or 6 people sit in a room, so, you have them be a part of a WhatsApp group for about 5 or 6 days, and then you converse with them on a regular basis through that time. And in fact, that's a very, very interesting way to get a lot of insights on a real-time basis. Even for the in-depth interviews, what we do is now we have Zoom interviews where we engage with people, 1.5 hour conversations. So I think the idea is that you're able to engage with people, whether you're sitting in their house or whether you're sitting across a screen. I don't think the insight mining piece has really stopped, and I don't think it will stop. But I think I also have a word of caution here. I don't think this can replace actual consumer research, because what we are missing are the small data, that we usually pick up when we're out on field. So when you're out on field, research is more about looking at the overall cultural memes that we pick up when we're in a consumer's home, and that doesn't end up happening when you're in an online space. So yes, this is the need of the hour right now, so we're going about doing it, but I don't think it's something that can replace traditional research, no.
Very interesting point, and we often miss out on the human to human aspect when we go about talking a lot about technology and how it's helping us. The human to human thing is when it's the most essential thing, and it's really important for specifically a field like consumer insights. And it's very important that however digital consumptions you may do or how many video conferences you might engage in, the comfort and the feeling of meeting another person, it's a different thing in itself.
Right.
As you said, this everything is happening on digital. That means the consumer is spending a lot more time on digital, and every company is doing activity on digital. A, because it is highly accessible, and B, because it's not as expensive. So with such huge amounts of content on the online space, it's very difficult to get visibility. And particularly the platforms which have been overcrowded, which are the big platforms in terms of social media. And in fact, Sam Basla in one of the previous episodes was mentioning that the organic content from most places is going to go down. And a lot of people are using the grants by Facebook and Google, to build their businesses online using paid promotions. And with such extensive use of paid promotions online, what kind of impact can be seen on those kinds of activities on a longer run?
I think that's a very pertinent question in today's world. What's happening is that the data which you're receiving right now, which talks about the amount of time spent by people on digital channels. I mean, we're already looking at 2x amount of time spent on the digital channels like Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. Their time spent on TikTok went really, really mad during that time. So all the data does tell you that they're spending this time there, and as a result, where the consumer is, advertisers follow there, right? So you already started seeing the kind of promotions going up and all the stuff that you're seeing out there. So very pertinent question: how does somebody stand out? I think that question has always been the case, even when this was not happening, because at a time when there was so many different channels available for people, and television was looked at something like that, where everybody has the money to spend on television, then how do you stand out? Everybody has money to spend on radio, how do you stand out? And I think that's where the creativity comes in. No matter what you're trying to do, the idea and the story that you're trying to tell for your brand, which is definitely based on some key insight from a person's life that happened. That's inside four walls today. The maximum amount of interactions that are happening with people are on screens, like the way we're doing right now. And I think keeping all of these new, I'd say, realities in check and putting them as a flavor into your ideas, the more creative your ideas are, the more they stand out. The more you understand people's nuances, the nuances about their lives, nuances about the way they approach different media forms also has changed a lot. I mean, we've been seeing much better traction coming on, let's say, when we run creative media buying on Instagram sponsored stories rather than the feed, for example. We are seeing fantastic approach coming out when we're doing pre-rolls, which are non-skippable pre-rolls, but where we are probably calling it out that this is going to be a non-skippable, but give us 10 seconds and listen to it. And stuff like that, I mean, where we're really going out there and we understand that the big thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is people in the advertising world, well, you're doing something which is intrusive for the experience of a person, and be very, very relevant about what you're talking about. Don't just look at just bombarding people with ads, because if you do that, then you will face the same problem that, no matter what you're trying to do, your funnel still remains big at the top, but doesn't convert at the end. So that's always going to be the problem.
It's a very interesting way to put it through.